What's up, YouTube? I'm back with another video, and as you can see by the title, I'm gonna be speaking on how I made or how I saved $10,000 with the least amount of money that I ever made. And I'm gonna get a little deep on this one. So this is when around the time, my credit was bad. I made some bad decisions. Just not being financially literate, and I went and got a car because I had good credit and whatnot. Then some things happened that I ain't gonna get too deep into at this moment, but some things happened where my car ended up being repossessed, and so I had lost my job. Originally I lost my job, and then income wasn't coming in, and then basically inevitably my car ended up getting repossessed. Now I ended up getting a new job. Boom. So around this time, I was doing trucking school, and I was doing trucking school, so I didn't have much time to work because I was trying to level up. I was trying to pursue trucking while also doing my security job. And so I was only working 4 days out the week. So I was working 4 days out the week, but my check would be $600. So man, my check would be $600, and $620 to be exact. So this is honestly one of the reasons why I wanted to pursue trucking. My security job, just the money wasn't coming in. Some days I would pick up on some overtime and whatnot if it was available, but my regular checks would be $620. So what I would do is, at my job, luckily this job fed me twice a day. I was so lucky to have this job to where they would feed me twice a day. So the only thing I would have to worry about was gas money, which I would try my best to make this $120 stretch. And every time I was putting the $500 up to where I couldn't touch it. Some people, whatever works for you, whatever you got to do to touch your first 10,000, do that. I had to, for me personally, when I got the cash on hand, when I got the money on hand, it's just gonna make me want to spend it, no matter if I put it up in the shoebox or something. Because if I'm being completely honest, it just feel good to have money in your pocket. Now, I'm not against anyone who does this, whatever works for you. But me personally, I had to put the money up. I had to put it up in an account to where I couldn't I couldn't tap the card or none of that. Like, I couldn't access this money. I had to put it up to where there was no way I could spend this money. And this is what I was doing, rigorously. I worked over the weekends, so I wasn't really doing too much. I wasn't in the mix too much. I wasn't, going to the club. I was, focused. I was focused, and man, I was putting $500 up and making a 120 stretch as best as I can for as long as I could. And there's someone that I was watching that helped me get a little financially literate, and they basically said, bruh, like, if you not ending off the year with $5,200 in your bank account, you're doing something wrong. And you know, 5,200, all it to make 5,200 in a year, you know, all you're doing is putting $100 up every week. And it's like, who can't do that? You know, you would have to be living above your means a lot to not be able to put $100 up a month. I mean, a week. We're talking $100 every week. So I heard that. I'm like, man, you know, 5,200. I'm not. What am I doing? 52. Why am I not ending off the year with $5,200? You know, and I really had to be real with myself. You know, my spending habits was all out of whack. It was all over the place. There was no structure. There was no system to how I was allocating my money or how I was spending my money. There was no real budget around where my funds was going. And you got to have the mindset, you know, that if you want to stay at this job or if you got to use the 9-to-5 as your escape plan. If you're not using your income in trying to leverage this thing as your escape plan, you know, if you're still living paycheck to paycheck and you're stressing about how you're gonna make ends meet, you know, or you're just not moving accordingly with your money, you know, the longer you're gonna have to stay at your job just to make it, you know. You got to use that income and put that money up as an escape plan to give you some breathing room. The more breathing room you have, the more time you have to think, and you could pivot. You could pivot to maybe a better job or pursuing a career or pursuing something else that's not keeping you trapped. You have to have that mindset, like, hey, I'm trying to use this to get away, to get some type of freedom. If you're not looking at money like a tool, you know, you're losing, and you're missing out. You're missing out on the right perception and the right perspective to have of money. And the sooner you gain that perspective that, hey, money is a tool for me to get away from this job and get away from the hustle and bustle and get away from doing certain things for a certain amount of time that I may necessarily not like, you know, the sooner you could adapt that mindset and adopt that mindset, you know, you'll view life differently, and you'll view money differently than how you were looking at money this whole time. So, and once you gain the mindset, you know, once you stack that first 10,000, you know, all that's next is 100,000. Or for, you know, once you stack that first 10, you gonna feel good. You gonna feel like you can stack that 100. You gonna give yourself the confidence, like, okay, I'm disciplining myself with money. Yeah, I could do this. Yeah, I'm looking at this. I could take this trip. I could do that. But you know, you know that you got the money, you got the access, but you're building the discipline. You're building the discipline that, hey, I got access, but just because I can do something, I don't have to. And that's one thing you'll realize once you start getting more access and you start getting more money. You know, just because I can do something doesn't mean I should. And that's pretty much it, bro. That's pretty much how I stacked my first 10,000. You know, $500. What? I did that 20 times. So I stacked $500 20 times, bro. And I know with some of you guys who jobs are bringing in more income and you guys don't have 10,000 put up. You know, cut back on your lifestyle. Cut back on the expenses, man. Switch off from these service providers. Nobody cares that you got Xfinity instead of Dish. Nobody cares that you got Verizon, you know, instead of Cricket or Metro. Switch from some of these. Pay your phone off. Do little things, the small things. Do the small things to get ahead. Do the small things to get ahead, and you'll thank yourself. You know, if you don't have your phone paid off, it's like, bro, what is you doing? Pay your phone off and get with a better service provider. Cause T-Mobile and Verizon and these people don't care about you. They pulling, you know, they pulling capers broad day. They pulling capers broad day on your account. So make sure you, about that, somebody was at my window. But stop giving these service providers all your money, man. Stop letting them rob you. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you got T-Mobile. Nobody cares that you got Xfinity. Cut back. Stop spending up all your time watching Netflix. You know, cut back on the subscriptions a little bit if you need to. You know, I did more with less. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse. Honestly. So if you guys like videos like this, and you guys like to hear me speak about finance and whatnot, just let me know down in the comments. And if this video earned your subscribe, I appreciate it, you know. And just people returning to watch my videos and tune in, I appreciate y'all. But I'll see y'all on the next one. God bless.